Gene seemed to think like 12 is going to happen. That's basically what he said. He thinks 12 will happen. They just have to come to an agreement on who all knows what. But I think the thing that struck a lot of people then is if you have 12, he mentioned having home games on, home campus games for the playoffs for the first round. And he said that his preference may be, instead of having it at Ohio Stadium, have Ohio State's home game in Indianapolis in the Dome, because he wants CJ Stroud to have, or whoever the quarterback, he said CJ Stroud, but whoever the quarterback is, you want to have ideal conditions. And so his preference would be ideal conditions. Now, this past December, if the playoffs are, if they start 2 weeks after a conference championship week, that would have been like December 18th. The temperature in Columbus on December 18th this past year was 51 degrees. Like, you don't need to schedule a dome game in general that early in December in Ohio, or certainly not in Columbus. But it's so I think a lot of Ohio State fans are upset about that prospect. I wonder what Ryan Day would think. Do you want to play in Indianapolis, or do you want to play in Columbus? And I also wonder if Ryan Day can go against his athletic director in this right now. So I think that's another thing that has created a bit of an uproar right now, is you've got the Ohio State athletic director willing to give up a home game for better conditions in Indianapolis, while also not worrying about the anywhere else in the nation. Like, no, Georgia can still play at their, on campus. Alabama can still play on campus. We would just choose not to. And I know that has a bunch of Buckeye fans upset as well.
Yeah, he was calling it the Hoosier Dome, so maybe it'll only be indoors if it is at the Hoosier Dome, RIP Hoosier Dome, not Lucas Oil. It's certainly, it certainly was an opportunity for him to say, well, no, we just probably need to play these at neutral sites. But no, I mean, we would explore the potential of playing at the Hoosier Dome, while Alabama could host at home and Georgia could host at home, and so on and so forth. He was asked a second time about it, and it was framed a little bit differently about having the option. And then we got into meteorology about Columbus being south of the snow belt, but Madison, Wisconsin, and Minneapolis, Minnesota are in the snow belt. Well, we don't have to worry. Neither of them are going to the playoff. But I don't know how you would be able to sit there and say, all right, your tickets are in 8C at Ohio Stadium, and your corresponding seats at Lucas Oil, which has a different capacity, would be here. So you can't just sit there and put together a game in a week just because a storm is moving in or whatever. I'm hoping that this was just a lot of stuff that was just, came out of the box incorrectly and is not the direction that they're looking at going for reals.
Well, I think having the option is okay. It's just choosing that option is the issue. And maybe after seeing once Gene has more information about how maybe the team feels about it, how the coach feels about it, maybe he changes his mind.
I just think the whole thing's patently absurd. I think we used to have the state championship games were played at Ohio Stadium in high school football that first weekend of December. Again, I don't know the exact timing they're talking about. And it was cold. I mean, that day Joe Burrow played Toledo Central Catholic at Ohio Stadium. It was 30 degrees. It was cold. I think there's some trepidation on Gene's part about the plumbing at Ohio Stadium. It has to be winterproofed or winterized at some point, and that's why they have never wanted to play, the Winter Classic hockey game at Ohio Stadium, which would be a perfect place to have it. Obviously, for the Columbus Blue Jackets, maybe to play, one of those outdoor NHL games. But I just think that this just, in my mind, kind of goes along with the we're here, but just don't ask. we're here for you, but just don't ask for anything type thing. It's like, oh, it'd be too
Insurance.
big a bother for us to host a college football playoff game on 7 days' notice or whatever. And that's kind of the tact Ohio State's taken with the OHSAA. Well, we just don't think, we can do the basketball here anymore or whatever. And we've got CCHA or Big Ten hockey we got to hold it for. And, we're just kind of in a no can do stance on this stuff. And I don't know if it's because he's near the end of his time as the athletic director to where, it gives him a headache to think about putting on more events or whatever. And help's hard to find. I mean, they were having workshops to find red coats to staff the games because of COVID and different things like that. And just staging a game of that magnitude is hard to do. So let somebody else do it is kind of the feeling. But I don't know. I don't agree with it. Not 100%. If you get assigned a home playoff game, it needs to be on your field where you play, barring an act of God. And, I know the game's got to be played for television, et cetera, so on. But I don't know. It's just seems kind of short-sighted. And I don't know how you'd book the Hoosier Dome, which actually, when its last legs was known as the RCA Dome before Lucas Oil Stadium went up. So he's 2 names ago and 1 building ago on his names. But we get what he's talking about. I just don't understand how you think you're going to book a building of that magnitude on 6 days' notice and have it on a contingency, I guess, if you're sitting in a position to get a home game in the final 3 weeks, make the phone call, hey, we might be hosting a game on December 10th or whatever. Just too many cats to herd, to get this thing off the ground. And I saw the American commissioner, I think Mike Oresco is his name, sent out an open letter to all the stakeholders. And I didn't read it, but my guess it was, hey, we need to pull our heads out of our butt and come to some consensus on this and quit angling for what's best for our little fiefdom and do what's best for the group, because we're leaving tens and 20 and 30 millions of dollars. I mean, there's legitimately for each school probably $1 million or $2 million a year that's being left out there on the table every year they don't do this. So I don't know. They got to come up with something.
Well, for Gene Smith, he would think, based on his references to Indianapolis in the stadium there, that he was the AD at Maryland or somewhere, that, there was just this place that we've heard about, but never frequented. And also, Kevin, keep in mind that in 2017, Wisconsin was 1 Alex Hornibrook touchdown pass away from going to the playoff. So it could happen.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.